Good morning everybody, I hope you're all okay and have had a lovely weekend. So today is our first day at having a go at doing the online lessons. So what I will do, I will talk through everything on here. I will ask you to pause the video to complete some work and then to come back to me once you've obviously completed the work. I will try and talk things through the best as I can, and I'll try and do some guidance as well on different pieces of paper or on the whiteboards as well. So I'll really be able to help you through with that. Okay, so we're moving on to our new topic of time. Now, I know previously I had set things when you're looking at days of the week and the hours in a day. So we're going to move on today to look at clocks. So we're going to be looking at practically using the clocks. So there are two different types of clocks. There's one that's called digital and one that's called analog. Now I'd like you to just have a talk with your parents or just have a think to yourself, when have you seen these different types of clocks? So when have you seen a digital clock, which is the one on the left, which says 12:05, and when have you seen the analog clock, which actually has the hands on it? I'd like you to pause the video now and just have a think about this. Okay, so having had a think about that, you might have come up with some ideas with the digital clock. You might have seen it on an iPad or a telephone. You might have seen it on a cooker, a microwave, or you might have come up with lots of different other ideas. Now I know a lot of you have got Fitbits, so you might have it on your Fitbit as well. Okay, and an analog clock, a lot of you might have come up with the ideas of your parents might have it on their watches, so they wear a watch which has an analog clock on. You might have a clock that's on the wall that you are able to see. There's a clock in our classroom that's on the wall that we use as well. So obviously you can see where the different types of clocks are. Now today we're going to be focusing on the analog. First of all, I want you to say analog. Okay, it's a difficult word, so if you break it down into the syllables, analog, then at least you'll be able to start to sound it out and actually spell it as well. So if you clap that, analog, and obviously that's how you could be able to spell it. So there's analog. Fantastic. Okay, so we're going to be looking at an analog clock today. Now we have two hands on a clock. There is a minute hand and there is an hour hand. Now I'd like you to have a think about, what does a minute hand represent and what does an hour hand represent? I want you to pause the video now and I want you to think about, what do you think a minute is and what do you think an hour is? Fantastic, so you should have had a little think about that, maybe a little discussion with your parents. Okay, so when we look at an analog clock, there are 12 numbers on the clock, which means there's 12 hours that you can see on an analog clock. Now from learning previously, we know that there's more than 12 hours on a clock. We know that there are 24 hours on a clock. So what will happen is, actually, can you have a think? What do you think will happen if there's 24 hours in a day and there's only 12 hours in a clock? What do you think the hour's what's going to happen to the hour hand? Have a think with your parents or have a think to yourself. Well done, fantastic. I can really understand that some of you might be able to spot that the hour hand would have to move around the clock twice, because there are 12 hours in half a day and 24 hours in a full day. So in order for half a day, the hour will go all the way around the clock once, and when it is half a day, that's for half a day, and when it is a full day, the hour hand will have to go around the clock twice for 24 hours. Okay, so using Seesaw, I have attached a blank copy like this clock here, and I would like you now to pause the video and I want you to go and have a go at labelling the minute hand and the hour hand on there. Now I have given you a little bit of a clue here. If you look at the word minute and you look at the word hour, minute is a longer word. There's more letters in minute. So because it's a longer word, it's the longer arrow, the longer hand. Whereas the hour is a smaller word, so that is the smaller hand or the shorter hand. See if you can pause the video now, go and label up your minute and your hour hand on the clocks that I have given you on Seesaw. Okay, once you have done that and you come back to me, then we can have a look and have you labelled your hands like this on your clock? Have you labelled the blue arrow as the minute hand, because this is the longer word, which means it's the longer hand, and the hour hand as the red arrow, as this is the shorter hand, and hour is a shorter word. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the clock, and the clock we can split it in half. So in a minute you're going to have a go at doing this, and you're going to have a go at drawing that line down the middle and splitting your clock in half. Now if you look, the clock is a circle, so if we cut it in half, we're going to cut it straight down the middle, and so we've got two halves, because obviously we know if we're putting it into a half, we know that that means there's two equal parts. Now there are two different sides to the clock. There is past and there is to. The past is when the minute hand, so the minute hand is the blue hand, the longer hand. When the clock is at past, that blue hand, the minute hand, because remember it's not always blue, it could be black, that longer hand is between the 12 up at the top and the 6. Okay, so that's because it's gone past the 12. So we always refer going past the 12. Okay, so that means it is past. Now when the minute hand gets to the 6, the longer hand gets to the 6, what do you think is going to happen then? Have a think with your parents or have a think to yourself. Okay, so it will turn to 2. Okay, because we now want to go to the 12. So we've gone past the 12 till we get to 6. And when we get to the 6, we now want to go up to the 12, because again, we're always trying to get to the 12. Okay, so we've either gone past the 12 to get to 6, or from 6 we want to go to the 12. So what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to draw the line down the middle of your clock, and I want you to label one half of it past and one half of it to. You might also want to use what I've put here as well to label it. So past is when the minute hand is past the 12 before it gets to the 6, and to is when the minute hand is moving to the 12 and has gone past the 6. Okay, have a go at doing that now. If you pause that and you can have a go on your seesaw, go and split it in half and label it past and to. Okay, fantastic. So if you have had a go at doing that, does yours look like mine? So have you split the line down the middle? So there are two parts, and you have wrote past on the side between the 12 and the 6 because it has gone past the 12, and 2 on the side which goes from the 6 up to the 12. If you have, that is brilliant. Well done for that. Okay, we're now going to be looking at the little lines. Now, the little lines on a clock. Can you remember how many minutes are on a clock? Well done, there are 60 minutes on a clock. So between, if you point to the 12 at the top, so if you point to the 12, okay, if you then count all the way around the clock, there are 60 minutes, okay? So each little line is worth 1. So if you point to one of the lines, and you can see that that little line is worth 1. So now between each number, so between the 12 and the 1, there are 5 minutes, because if you put your finger on the 12 and you count the little lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, by the time we get to the 1, that is 5 minutes. Now if we keep counting the little lines after we've got to 5 minutes, we go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So how many minutes has passed by the time we get to 2? Well done, there are 10 minutes, because there are 5 minutes between each number. Now if we have a look at the clock then, if you carry on that pattern, I would like you to have a go at counting the minutes on the clock. So we've already done 5 minutes, which is at the 1, 10 minutes, which is at the 2. What do you think is going to be at the 3? How many minutes passed? If you're unsure, put your finger on the 2 and count on from 10 until you get to the number 3. Okay, I'd like you now to have a go at writing the minutes around the clock, just like my example on the screen. I wrote 5 minutes, which is next to the 1. You might write 10 minutes, which is next to the 2, and I would like you to carry that round and all the way around the clock until you get back to 12. Okay, so pause the video, go back onto your seesaw, or if you've printed it off, you can also be doing it on there as well. And I want you to have a go at doing that now. Fantastic. So if you have a look at mine then, yours should look something like this. So you should have wrote 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55 and 60. Now why have I got 60 minutes at the 12? Have a think, and then I will tell you the answer in a minute. Fantastic. So the reason why there are 60 minutes on the 12 is because, as we know, there are 60 minutes in a clock. Okay, or 60 minutes in an hour. Tell your parents or tell yourself there are 60 minutes in an hour. Fantastic. So what we're now going to have a look at doing is that obviously we know how many minutes are around the clock. We know that a clock has got a minute and an hour hand, and we know that there are two sides to a clock. We have past, we have two. Now we're going to think about if we had to cut our clock into quarters. So we know that quarters, 1 quarter, 1/4, we know that there are 4 equal parts. Same with a half, we know there are 2 equal parts. So you've already split your clock into halves, okay, and you've got your past and your two. Now what I'd like you to do is, if you have a look at my example, I want you to now split it into quarters. So you should have one line going down and you should have one line going across to split your clock into quarters. Now when you do this, you will see that we can now label it differently. So I would now like you to think of where these words would go. So there is quarter past, half past, quarter to, and o'clock. So when that minute hand gets to one of the lines which you have just drawn, what do you think it's going to be? Have a go on yours, and then I will show you the answers. Okay, fantastic. So if you started, we know that when the minute hand is where it is at the minute, that means it is o'clock, because that is a new hour. Okay, so you should have wrote o'clock up at the top. If you have cut your circle, your clock in half, where should your half past be? Okay, you're right, it should be right at the bottom, because that has gone halfway around the clock. Now, we have split them into quarters, so the other two lines are obviously going to be quarter. But which way is going to be past and which way is going to be to? Okay, let's have a look to see if you've got the same as me. Okay, so does yours look like this? Have you got o'clock up at the top because that's the new hour? Have you then got half past at the bottom because that's halfway around the clock? Or if you imagine it's like a pizza, it's a circular pizza. If you've eaten half of it, you'll go right down to the bottom. Then you've got your quarter past on one side, on the past side, and the quarter to on the other side, because obviously that's going up to the clock, to the 12, rather than past the 12. So fantastic if you've understood that. Now what we're going to move on to next is, we don't say that it is 55 minutes past or 55 minutes to. What we do say is we start to change it slightly, and that's what we're going to have a look at doing now. So when the minute hand moves, we describe how many minutes it moves past the 12 until it gets to the 6, or how many minutes it needs to get to the 12. So for example, if we have a look at mine, I have said that it is 5 minutes past, because we know once the minute hand moves to the 1, that is 5 minutes and it has gone past the 12. So that will be 5 minutes past. Now, when we get to the 2, we know already that that is 10 minutes, but we know that that is 10 minutes past the hour. Okay, because we have counted and we know that there's 5 minutes between each number, and this is on the past side of the clock. Now what I'd like you to do is just first of all is to pause the video, and I want you to carry on labelling all of the 5 minutes past, 10 minutes past, all the way until you get to the number 6, and then I would like you to stop there, and then I want you to come back to the video. Okay, so pause the video now and go and label up from 5 minutes past all the way till you get to the number 6. Okay, so now you've had a go at doing all the past. This is where it gets a little bit tricky, because on the 2 side, we don't keep following it round like you've just done. We actually need to now go back up to the 12. So can you go on point back to the 12? Okay, so go right back to the 12. Oops, put my finger on the 12. Okay, and then this time, because we want to know how many minutes it is to the 12, we now need to count backwards from the 12. So we will count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when we get to the number 11, we will say that is 5 minutes to the 12, because we're trying to get to the 12. So you can see that on my example on the screen, I have said it is 5 minutes to. Now, if you carry on, you will go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So when you get to the number 10, that will be 10 minutes 2 because we're trying to get to the 12, remember? So it's 10 minutes to the 12. Now I'd like you to carry on that, so keep counting 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then you'll write 15 minutes to. And I want you to carry that until you have completed the circle and met at the bottom with the number 6. Okay, have a go at that, and then we can see if you have got it right. Okay, so you should have now got something that looks like this. So you should have wrote 5 minutes past, 10 minutes past, quarter past, or it's the same as 15 minutes past, 20 minutes past, 25 minutes past, half past, which is 30 minutes past, and then it should have turned to 2. So we should have 25 minutes to, because that's 25 minutes until it gets to the 12, 20 minutes to, quarter to, or this is the same as 15 minutes to, 10 minutes to, and 5 minutes to until you get to o'clock. If you have done this, fantastic, you have worked so well on that, brilliant. Okay, so now we're going to start to look at the hour hand. So we've looked at all the minute hands, so now we're going to start to look at the hour. Now, when it is o'clock, so when it starts a new hour, the minute hand is right upon the 12. Okay, so if you look at the first picture, you can see that the minute hand is on the 12 because that's the longer hand. And the shorter hand, which is the hour hand, is on the 3. This is telling me that it is 3 o'clock. Because we always say, when it gets to o'clock, we always start with which hour it is on. Now you can see that the hour hand is exactly on the 3 because it is a brand new hour and it starts on the 3. But when the minute hand moves around the clock, it also pulls the hour hand with it. The hour hand doesn't obviously do a full circle because it only moves between one number and another number. So if we look at the second picture, you can see that my minute hand has now moved half away around the clock, so it's half past. But what has happened to the hour hand? Can you have a little think about what's happened and have a little talk to your parents or have a think about it yourself? Fantastic, so you can see that the hour hand is actually halfway between the 6 and the 7 because the minute hand has gone half past, halfway around the clock, so our hour hand now has to move between the numbers. So it would have been 6 o'clock, it is now 6:30, so my hour hand has moved towards the 7 but is halfway between it. Now if we have a look at the third picture, it is 5 minutes to 4. So can you see that our hand has not quite got to the 4 yet? Okay, because it isn't 4 o'clock, it's still 5 minutes to 4. But if you can see that our hand is now closer to 4, why do you think it's closer to 4 and why is it not closer to 3? Okay, if you've said that it's because it is 5 minutes to 4, so it is nearly at 4 o'clock, that is why the hour hand has to be closer to the 4. Because if it was closer to the 3, it could have been 3:05, but it doesn't say that. Fantastic. Okay, so now we're going to look at telling the time. Now I know there I was saying 5 to 3, 5 to 4, 3:05. If you're unsure how to work that out, that's absolutely fine because that's what we're going to look at next. Now to tell the time, we have to do a few things. I'm going to show you a step to success, a step to progress, so that you can also do it too. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Now, the first thing we need to do is look at the minute hand. So, using the picture on the screen, I want you to point to the minute hand. Okay, you should have pointed to the blue hand because obviously that is the longer hand. Now, first thing we are going to say, is that on the past side of the clock or is it on the to side of the clock? Well done, this is on the past side of the clock. So now what we're going to do, you're going to put your finger on the number 12 at the top. So now we are going to work out how many minutes past the 12, past the hour, has my minute hand gone. So we can jump in 5s. Why do you think we can jump in 5s? Have a talk to your parents or have a think. Why do you think we can jump in 5s? Fantastic, well done if you have said that we can jump in 5s because we know there are 5 minutes between each number. So it means instead of having to count all the little ones, we can do it quicker as we all know our 5 times tables. So put your finger on the 12 and I want you to jump where I have jumped on the example. So we can jump to the one, so that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And because it's on the past, we know that the answer will be 25 minutes past. Okay, and now we know that it is 25 minutes past, we can now look at the hour hand. If you have a look at the red hand, the shorter hand, we want to know, because it is past, we want to know what number has that passed. If you have said 7, well done, that is brilliant work, because it has gone past the 7. Has it gone past the 8 yet? No, it hasn't, but we are on, because our minute hand is past, we say that it is 25 minutes past 7. Okay, using this technique that I have used here, and use your steps, I've also added this help sheet as well onto Seesaw, so you can use that as well. I'd like you to now have a go at doing the following next 2 questions. I'm going to pause the video, and then, or you can pause the video, then when you go on to the next slides you can have a go, and then I will then show you how to work those out to make sure that you have got them right as well. Good luck, and I will show you soon. Okay, so you should have now have had a go at working out these 2 questions. So from working out these questions, I'm going to now go through the answers and see if you have got the same answers as me. I'm going to try my best. My whiteboard hasn't come just yet, but obviously once I get that, it'll be a bit clearer. So I've just put it on a piece of paper here at the minute, and I'm going to try and show you on here to make sure you have got the same. So using our steps, I need to first of all look at my minute hand. So if we look at this one first, I can see that my minute hand is on the past side. Okay, so I know that my minute hand is on the past. So I will start at the 12, and again, I'm going to jump in 5s because it is quicker. So I'm going to jump 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So I know that my minute hand is 25. I'll just write that down. 25 minutes, and it's on the past side. Okay, so I have now said that it is 25 minutes past. Now I can now look at my hour hand. So because it is past, which hour has my hour passed? You should have said that it has gone past the 5, because has it passed the 6 yet? No, it has passed the 5, so it would be 25 minutes past 5. If you have got that, you can give it a tick. Right, let's have a look at our next one then. So, if we have a look at our next clock, again, we need to first of all look at our minute hand. Is it on the past side or the to side? Brilliant, it is on the past side. So, I can now start from my 12. I put a little dot on my 12. And I can count in 5s. As it is only at the 5, I know at the 1, which obviously is 5 minutes, I can say it is 5 minutes past. And now we need to have a look. Which hour has it passed? Okay, brilliant. We can see that it has passed the 11. It hasn't gone past the 12 yet, so it will be 5 minutes past 11. Okay, so if you've got that one right, well done, fantastic work. I hope this is starting to make a little bit more sense of how to work it out now. So give that one a tick also. Okay. Now what we're going to go on to, we're going to look at 2. Now when we do telling the time 2, it does get a lot more difficult, because obviously we have to go from a different way, or we have to think of it differently. So what we are going to be looking at doing is a very similar technique. The first thing we need to do is we still need to look at the minute hand. We always look at the minute hand first when we're looking at an analog clock. And the minute hand, we need to decide, is this on the to side or is this on the past side? Obviously, if you look at the clock on the screen here, you can see that it is 2, okay, because it's on the to side. So we know straight away that it's going to be something minutes 2. Now, we're still going to start from the 12, because the 12 is a great place to start. And instead of going to the right and going forwards, we're now going to work backwards, because we want to know how many minutes it is till it gets to the hour. So put your finger on the 12. And I want you to jump it with me, so we can go 5, 10, 15, 20 because the minute hand is at the 20 minutes to. So we know that this one is 20 minutes to. It is not 8 minutes to. Why is it not 8 minutes to? Have a think, and I want you to have a talk with your parents. Why is it not 8 minutes to? Okay, fantastic. You should have said something along the lines of, it's not 8 minutes to because there are 5 minutes between each number. So there are 20 minutes between the number 8 and the number 12. Now, we know because it is 2, we can now look at the hour hand. So we know it's 20 minutes to something. Now, when we look at our hour hand, because it is 2, we want to know what number it's trying to get to. So what number is our hour hand trying to get to? Well done, it is trying to get to the 5, so we would say that this time is 20 minutes to 5. Okay, using the steps again, I'd now like you to have a go at the next 2 questions on the next slide, and then I'll come back and we'll discuss it like we did with the previous ones. Okay, so have a look at these. Obviously have a go at working them out on Seesaw. Off you go. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at these ones. So the first question we can have a look at. Okay, first thing we need to do is look at the minute hand. Okay, so the minute hand, is it on the past side or the to side? Well, I can see that it's on the to side. So again, I need to start from the 12, so I'll put my dot on the 12. And this time, remember, because it is on the to side, I need to count backwards. So I will count backwards in 5s because it is easier, and also because it is on a whole number, we know it's going to be a multiple of 5. So I can go 5. So I know that that is 5 minutes to, and now I can look at my hour. So I know it's 5 minutes to. Now, which number is my hour hand trying to get to? It's trying to get to the 4. So it is 5 minutes to 4 is this time. Okay, let's have a look at the second one again. Is my minute hand on the to side or the past side? It's on the to side, fantastic. Because remember, I'm looking at the longer hand. Now again, we still need to go to the 12. And because it's on the to side, we will count backwards. Okay, so it's on the 8 is the minute hand, so we know it's going to be a multiple of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20. So I know that this one will be 20 minutes to. Okay, because it is 20 minutes before it gets up to the 12. Now, if I look at my hour then, what is it trying to get to? Which time is it trying to get to? Brilliant, it's trying to get to the 3. So we will say it is 20 minutes to 3 or 20 to 3. Okay, fantastic. If you've got both of those right, fantastic work. Well done, you're really starting to understand this. Okay, I hope that has all made sense, and I hope that's really helped to understand how we can learn to tell the time using an analog clock. Now, for the rest of the lesson, what I'd like you to have a go at doing is I've given you a link here, and on Seesaw I've also provided the same link for you to be able to go and use the online resource, so you can actually move the hands around the clock and then you can practice telling the time. Now, if you are unsure about how the hour hand moves, actually if you drag the minute hand, it will show what happens to the clock, what happens to the hour hand. So I'd love you to have a go at doing this. Again, as you can see from the example of what it will look like, it is not a red and a blue arrow, so you need to remember it's to do with the length of the hands. So remember, if it's a longer hand, it is the minute, and if it's a shorter hand, it is the hour. Have a brilliant go at it. Obviously, if you want to do any of your own questions, take any videos of you practicing it, so that's absolutely brilliant, and I'd love to see those on Seesaw, and I look forward to showing you tomorrow's lesson.